Welcome back. We're back. Two fans, one Paul. Myself, David Quist. Lovely co-host KB Kirk Brown. What a slate of games Saturday turned out to be. The noon slate, particular at KB, was epic, and then obviously the Penn State Oregon game went to the final bell in overtime, double overtime. We had a lot of comments on TikTok. People are crazy at Penn State. We can get into that later too when we talk about that game, KB. But Lions got the win. Good to see as well as a Michigander. But let's throw it to KB, see how he's doing in Arizona, and then we can jump into the games.
Yeah, doing really good. We did have some flash flooding here in Arizona. Some people lost their lives in Globe, Arizona. So
Jeez.
just thoughts and prayers to some people because there was a really, really bad rains out here. And took some people's lives. So really sorry to hear that. There's also a shooting today at a church in Michigan. So just thoughts and prayers for all those people. It sucks. But, this is kind of the place away from that. All the drama, all the life stuff is football. There wasn't a single time slot that a bad game happened. Even Friday night game, Florida State losing to Virginia in the storming of the field Friday was fun, and then every single game kind of had a really marquee impact on the schedule. So it was a really fun weekend. Everyone on the internet who hyped it up and was like, hopefully no one has a fall wedding, they were correct. I felt like we've had a lot of those weekends so far this year, maybe more so than the last couple of years. So that's always fun and good. So with all that being said, we will kick off talking about the games here, and we are both right on this one. Ole Miss beats LSU. It comes down to a fourth down decision for Ole Miss to go for it, and Trinidad Chambliss continues his record-setting pace of his first 3 or 4 starts here, 300 yards, over 50 yards rushing. He's been exceptional. Quist, give me your thoughts on this game, positives, negatives, some things to look out for as Ole Miss picks up one of those marquee wins we were talking about that they've really struggled to do. Now, hopefully they can maintain it. But give me your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, it was kind of a slower burn, too, of a game. But in my opinion, I watched a lot of the first half and then had to do adult things. But yeah, I think Trinidad, his arm is pretty damn good when I was watching back to highlights as well. And that is someone to keep an eye on. I'm kind of curious to see how he rises as he gets better. Obviously, coming from D2 Fair State, going to Ole Miss. I thought the defense for LSU looked good because I know they were highly ranked, and the stats showed that as well. And then, Lane Kiffin's got some wrinkles in there. They ran the ball decent. Trinidad ran. Ole Miss defense was good. It was a little sloppy with penalties. There's a lot of penalties. You might have the stats, so you can tell me that later. But this is just a classic lower scoring SEC game where I thought Lane Kiffin just did a little bit more than Kelly did, and that was kind of the difference. And going for it to get that first down is what I would do. Knowing Kiffin, that's what he's going to do. And just a classic good game. I'm kind of over the CBS ABC switch, KB. I'm going to keep on bringing it up because I'm so used to SEC 3:30 kickoff with Brad Nessler, and I can't remember the other guy. Just a weird little
Gary Daniels, right?
Yeah, I think. Nope. It's Nessler and some other guy. I can't think of his name right now, but Nessler's just been on the call, and I kind of missed the SEC vibe, but now it's Big Ten, which is whatever pays the bills. But yeah, Trinidad, 23 for 39, 314, a touchdown, a pick, ran for 71, as you said. The team ran at 170 for 2 touchdowns compared to LSU, 21 for 59 yards. So, that Ole Miss land shark D really stood tall and shut them down. And Nussmeier not looking good either, KB. 21 for 34, 197, a touchdown and a pick. I did see a weird highlight on Twitter earlier, probably an hour ago, just looking around, scouting what we do over here, and his shoulders on his deep throws are, I don't know if it's shoulders or just body. When he threw it last year, he's a little more standing tall, getting the ball there. And this year, he seems to be kind of dragging that back shoulder, and it's kind of been short. And I think there was a throw this game that was a little bit short. That was a deep ball. So something to keep your eye on. That was a really highly touted quarterback coming in this season, possibly a top pick. He's kind of falling down a little bit.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that. I don't know if it's a fundamentals issue. It's a weird fundamental issue. Basically, he's like you said, he's dragging, but it's because he's not getting over his front foot. His front knee is collapsing on the deep balls right now. He isn't standing high and rotating over top like not a fully flexed knee, but like a standing tall knee. You think of like MLB pitchers. You got to bend and then hyperextend through the top of that knee to drive through the ground and create velocity, and he isn't currently doing that. So people are suspecting in the LSU fan base that he may be injured. He might have a knee injury or something in that front leg that's not letting him drive. So yeah, this was a really weird game. Ole Miss had 14 penalties for 109 yards, like you were saying. They had LSU had 7 for 78, so both teams were pretty heavily penalized. Ole Miss had 2 turnovers in this game to LSU's 1. One of them was a fumble as they were going to be like going in on like the 3 or 4 yard line. Whit Weeks punched it, or Whit Weeks recovered it, I believe. It was a really good play by the safety to punch it out. Ole Miss outgained them 484 to 256. This game was close, obviously, because of the penalties, 1 extra turnover. One of the weird things, or like interesting things, is Ole Miss loves running like the go ball down the sideline back shoulder. It turned into an INT one of the times. And there was also a really fantastic catch in this game by Nick Anderson in the end zone, which was LSU's first touchdown. It was tipped off a defender's hand, and Nick reacted to it and caught the ball in the end zone. So this was a really good game, but Brian Kelly loses. I think we're all happy about that. This is a huge win for Kiffin. This is a really, growing experience. We were concerned. We were like, this offense hasn't really been tested. They haven't moved the ball a whole lot, and it didn't generate into points, but a lot of that's due to penalties, 2 turnovers, like 484 yards against this LSU defense that had been playing well. And we had questions about this LSU defense. Look, they were able to make the turnovers and work on the penalties, so they didn't get blown out in this game. But there has to be some concerns on how this offense has performed. 256 yards. Ole Miss has played well, but I don't know if we'd be like, wow, like sub 300 yards of offense, and they simply can't run the ball. This program's become soft under Brian Kelly. They don't run to the ball hard. They don't run the ball well. And it's kind of just been a razzle-dazzle show, and they had a Heisman Trophy winner, wasted his season with a bad defense. Now they have a really good defense who's playing, competent. I wouldn't say great, world-class. 24 points, Ole Miss is good. But they were able to lock in, and LSU offense just simply didn't make enough plays in this game. And the last thing I want to talk about this game is Ole Miss and Kiffin. Kiffin said, I called on my comms, the D coordinator, and asked him if I should go for it, and he said go. He said, you'll regret it if you don't. Because you kick a field goal there, you make it an 8-point game, so now the other team can go for every 4th down, or you can kind of win it right there, especially with how your defense had been playing. I like that move. It's a ballsy move. I feel like that's a move that Kiffin previously wouldn't have done. And so really, really happy with how that turned out. Ole Miss gets a win here. We are both right about it, and they can continue rolling.
Yeah, their next game is pretty easy, right? They got Wazoo.
Yeah, Washington State. Then they have Georgia, Oklahoma, Southern Cal, the Citadel, Florida, and Mississippi State. So, they probably can have 2 losses in this thing, finish out the season 10-2. They'd be in. Obviously, they want more than that, but still really, really good. And, one of those key wins that you mark off on your calendar. That's like, yep, that's one of the, program wins.
Absolutely. I'm curious to see, too, KB, when it comes to the quarterbacks. I know they started another guy the first couple games. I'm curious if Trinidad keeps the spot or if this other guy comes back if he's healthy. I don't know if you know anything, but I'm curious if you have any quick thoughts before we jump to the next game.
Yeah, Austin Simmons is the QB. I would be really surprised. I mean, with how well he's playing, 300 yards. He's avoided turnovers. He had 1 in this game. He also ran the ball pretty well. We got to remember Austin Simmons had 3 picks against Kentucky that they were able. I believe not. I believe he's a redshirt freshman.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt you. Just curious. Yeah, I'm curious. I think Trinidad's a great story, and obviously we're biased because he's from our town, and I watched him play in high school, and then he went to Ferris, and I don't know if he won the Heisman Trophy, whatever they call it in D2, but obviously he won an Natty there, and they're a dominant D2 program. So that's a fun thing we're gonna keep watching. Obviously, just we're homers, right, KB? Okay, next game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, next game. Ohio State 24 over Washington 6. I was locked into the first half of this game, KB. Then I had to go out again. But, man, that environment, I got to say, once again, I've been out there. It was ruckus. It was ready to go. I thought Williams, the quarterback for Washington, Damon, he looked locked in to start the game. I think he was like 8 for 9, slinging it around. And then Coleman had a big run, that 34-yard. But then, that OSU defense stood tall. What they do, I know they did it in the red zone again. They did that a lot last year. And they shut down Denzel Boston, 3 catches for 26. That's a really good receiver. He's a stud. And on the other side of the ball, Sayin, clean game, 22 for 28, 208, 2 tutties. They ran the ball okay, 34, 149, and a touchdown as a team. Still not sure who that lead running back is. It seems like Bo Jackson's kind of taking that step for them. But I guess we'll see. I thought Peoples was the guy. And then obviously the receivers, Jeremiah Smith, 8 catches, 81 yards. He had a nice touchdown. It was a drag. And if you probably watched the replay back, they probably all this blocked and said, give it to our best guy. Everybody just go block, and they'll score a tutty. The defense stood tall, played really well. I thought this was a fun game to watch. I know it was low scoring relatively. I also texted you this too, KB, that I thought this game was zooming by compared to Fox games. I don't know if it's a commercial thing or what, but the CBS 3:30 game was done by like 6:30, which is 3 hours, which I think is pretty damn quick.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said there was 100% correct. Damon Williams played himself a hell of a game. He had 6 sacks, though. I think that's really the key difference maker, something that you really don't think about. Ohio State kept him in the pocket. Even when he was scrambling, he wasn't scrambling for a lot. They really pressed that pocket. Washington was 1 of 11 on third down in this game, which is one of those key stats. You know, if you're not keeping drives around, you can kind of win in the 20s, but once you get into the low red zone, those areas where you have to score, that's where Ohio State has been really, really good the last few years. They haven't allowed a red zone score. I believe anytime a team's gotten into the 20, they haven't scored any points due to going for it on fourth down and stuff like that, which is absolutely insane. Probably not sustainable, but definitely a key element to them winning here. This team has done a really good job, and I picked Ohio State. Obviously, I'm a Michigan guy. I don't like this university. I hope they lose every single game they play in. But they're a really good football team. They're fundamentally sound, and in the second half, they were able to get to some really easy throws for Sayan. Sayan had 30 yards passing before the drive to end the half, and by the end of the game, he put up a very respectable stat line, which means that they really trusted him with the offense more and more. I think one of the key parts of the game, and this isn't a ref thing, we got to figure out what roughing the quarterback is. I saw 2 calls. One was in the Arkansas Notre Dame game that extended a drive. We have to let people hit quarterbacks. Look, I'm not saying that we need to allow hard hits. I don't need to say we need to allow driving into the ground, but we're having quarterbacks not falling to the ground, and penalty flags are being thrown for roughing the passer. Those two things can't coexist unless you headbutt the fucker and he doesn't fall. But that's not what's happening. A helmet to the shoulder here. The guy didn't drive him into the ground. He didn't finish the hit. He even pulled up on the hit when he hit him in the shoulder, and it extends a play. It takes a 7-3 game, which would maybe be a 10-3 game. It was 3rd and 22. Maybe they make that field goal. You can also, field goals aren't guaranteed, right? And it makes it to an automatic first down, puts it in a 14-3 game. Washington isn't able to press forward and score. So, sucks. But this is a really gutsy performance. Ohio State basically did nothing through the first quarter and a half of this game, found their groove late in the second, and they controlled the fuck out of this game, especially in the second half. In the first half, you look at time of possession, it's within 3 minutes. But in the second half, they had an 8-minute drive to start off the second half where they scored the touchdown. They then had a 5-minute 30-second drive where they kicked a field goal. They then had a 3:48 drive where they scored a touchdown. That's how you win games with a young QB going on the road for his first road start in a pretty raucous environment. Really impressed with Ohio State. They're one of the best teams in the country. I'm not fully in on this defense yet because eventually they're going to play a team that is good in the red zone. And they really patented this bend but don't break. They haven't let up points in that area. And this is even going back to last year. But eventually something has to give, right? And so maybe we see a game where they give up a few more points because they're not getting those red zone stops. But overall, this is a hell of a football team. They're still young. They're going to be getting better as the season goes on. I think that's an underrated trait. And then one thing you talked about with the backfield. Yeah, Peoples was the guy. He was the number 1 back. He's highly touted. And Bo Jackson just came in, and he just runs meaner. He runs with more authority. He breaks more tackles. He's more decisive, I would say, is when I've watched him, is that he makes his cut and goes. And that's what Ohio State needs. So I'm really impressed with them, and I still don't think the offense is fully opened. I still think that they're not babying Sayan, but really trying to make sure they give concepts that he's comfortable, that he knows, and you haven't seen like the creativity that we generally see in some of these offenses. It's been pretty vanilla, and I think that's just a young QB making sure that he doesn't have to think too much, making sure he doesn't have to, be overwhelmed. But he's playing really, really good football. He's really accurate, really on time, and he can extend plays a little bit and enough to, make good decisions. So really impressive win by them. It's not easy going the road there, and they pull out and win by, they cover the spread. When great teams cover the spread. So.
That's right. Yeah, I think they have a favorable schedule, KB, and that might let them, kind of open it up a little bit. They're Minnesota, at Illinois, at Wisconsin, Penn State at home, at Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, at Michigan. I mean, in my opinion, besides Penn State, Michigan, those are winnable games too, but every game besides that is pretty much a win unless Ohio State just has a terrible game. So, looking to see what happens. Penn State's in a couple weeks, probably in a month and a half. And obviously they have the game against Michigan, which they need to get that one back. So
Penn State's the first week of November.
Yeah.
In between that, they have, like you said, Minnesota, Illinois. On the road at Illinois is a little scary. They played much better ball this week. They were able to overcome USC. They were able to throw the ball a little bit. That's a pretty good offense, especially when everyone's healthy on that team. So that's a key test. And then they play Wisconsin, and they have a bye heading into the Penn State game, just as Penn State does. So that's going to be really one of the games, which, I mean, that gets us into our next game, right? Penn State, the choke artists at large. I don't know why.
Tell them, KB.
They're a good football team, and James Franklin has done a good job. The program was not in a good space when he got there, but this is just who they are. It's almost seemingly impossible because it's not like they play these games and are getting.
They came back.
It's not like Iowa, right? Where they get into some of these big games and maybe they win a few of them, but they're mostly getting walloped in big time games. Things can get overwhelmed for them. They're always, I feel like, really close, and then they always just don't make the play. They always don't make the play.
What's the stat since he's been there against top 10 teams? I can find
top
it.
10.
Go ahead.
It's really bad, but I think we can talk about this game in a bunch of different ways. A lot of people are blaming Penn State's defense, which I think is crazy. This is a really explosive offense, and they held them to. Let me double check here. They held them to 3 points in the first half, man. You're not going to let everything go. They ended up scoring 14 in the second half, but still a really good performance. Obviously, 13 came in overtime, which I don't really expect defenses to be able to handle. Teams already just in the 25.
Yep.
But Dante Moore is already a better quarterback than Drew Allard.
That second overtime
already looks more.
Drops that shoulder down.
He looks more confident.
Bang.
He makes decisions better. He's more accurate. That's the difference, right? That's the game changer, and that's why this is the way it is because one team has a quarterback that makes the plays, and the other team has a quarterback that just exists. And this is a time to critique Andy Kotelnicki. This dude draws up the wildest plays to gain 3 yards. Allard does not look comfortable. It doesn't look like he knows what he's doing, and it just leads to too many misses, too many dead plays where they do 13 different motions, a twist, a stunt, and then they gain 3 yards or it's an incomplete pass. He's 14 of 25 for 137, 5.5 yards an attempt, and 2 TDs. And then running the ball, they ran the ball for 4.5 yards an attempt, Katrin Allen did, and Nicholas Singleton had 1.9 yards an attempt. So they ran 35 times for 139. They threw the ball 25 times. That's just, it's really, really weird. And there's all these guys and all these transfers that came in, and they just weren't very productive. But if I had to wrap all of this up into a single ball before I get this over to you, Quist, when Penn State punted from, I gotta find this, I think it was the Oregon 38, and it was a touchback, so it was a gain of 18 net yards of field change. That's the shit that drives me nuts with James Franklin. You're on the plus 38, it's third down, you don't run it on third down, you throw it, you don't get it, and then you punt. That's just, and it's a 3-3 game. It's not like it was when they were 3-3. What are you doing here?
He pissed out his leg, Gabe. It's what he does.
It's just what he does. He makes those really odd, really weird decisions. And another thing, Penn State fourth down was huge in this game. Penn State was 3 for 3 on fourth down. Oregon was 5 of 7.
Jesus.
And the last thing I'll say, I saw a bunch of clips, and Penn State fans have a right to be mad. We just aren't calling holding this year in the Big Ten. You just get to mug every defensive end and every guard anytime they beat you, and you're just not going to call it. And like I said, that's not the determining factor, but you have to call penalties where Denny Dana-Sutton beats a guy off the line. And this is the Dante Moore play, like in the second half, where he extends it, and it's a third down and long that he extends. And he just gets grabbed, and he gets pulled to the ground. And it's just, like, not called. And it's just unacceptable. Refs need to be better. I'm always for refs being better. And to get into that, Quist, what are your thoughts on the targeting call that got overturned and targeting in general? And then let's hear your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, that was towards the end of the game, and that was targeting. I mean, I know that the two things they say now are defenseless and then crown of the helmet. And then this one, I guess he wasn't defenseless and wasn't crown of the helmet. It looked like it was.
They said it was like the hairline of the helmet. Like, if you have to get in the hairline, like, first off, some of our hairlines, we all have different hairlines. So, like.
Look at my big ass forehead over here.
Yeah, me too. That's why I wear a hat all the time. But, no,
it was definitely targeting, in my opinion. And obviously, I don't think it changed the outcome of the game, but it could. And like you said, you're all for refs being better. I don't know if that's a full-time thing, or we talked about this before. And sometimes missing targeting or even a face mask when there's a fumble like we had last year, it can be game-changing. We might not win that game, whatever, but you got to be better. And when it's targeting, there's replays, and we review every call. I mean, the Michigan State Jordan Hall, I would say, was less targeting than this call, and Jordan Hall's targeting was called, and this one was not. And that's a different instance and whatnot, but I mean, I'm pretty sure Dante Moore was like running and kind of going down, and the guy just totally hit him straight up with the front of his helmet. So I don't know what defenseless is. I don't know what crown of the helmet is, but yeah, it's a rule where we need to tinker it a little bit, where we need to add intent, because I would say the Jordan Hall intent was not there, and then I would say the intent for this one was there. So I guess there's some push and pull. It didn't affect the game. I did find the stat, KB, for, I think, I'm going to shout out Gabe Yost on our TikTok comments. He said they're 4-21 against top 10 teams since Franklin's been at Penn State. So 4-21 against top 10 teams is really, really not great. You got the whiteout. You got 110,000 fans there. You got no logo at center field, KB. And you just pissed down your leg again. I give them credit for coming back down 17-3. Dane Lanning was ready to fucking run through a wall when they scored that touchdown to go there. And, they were ballsy, and, they scrapped it out to tie. And then you go to overtime, and we all thought in my group chat, you probably did too, they go for 2, Oregon, because they go second. And they didn't in the first overtime. You get the ball first. Dante Moore makes a great play. Like I said a second ago, slips past the DN, slings it to the receiver, runs it and scores. And then Adler, I don't know if it's what you said earlier about him, KB. It was a little tight end wheel route, first play. They get the ball, pick. I think the DB would have picked it too. That was in position next to the line.
There was three people
guys
there. Like, they knew the play.
Yeah,
they were like, "Fuck, this is probably the formation." Like, it was very obvious, and Allard didn't look anyone off.
It was a stutter.
He stared
too.
it down, and it was just one of those decisions where it's like, that's the difference. Where, like, Allard didn't take that next step, man. Like, he made some incredible throws in this game. He had a play where a guy was dragged all over him, and he just flicks it out there, and it's like, that's why people talk about him in NFL draft circles. But then it's like, God, like, he just looks so uncomfortable getting through his reads and throwing the ball. Like, Penn State got outgained 424 to 276. Like, that's huge. They let up 4.5 yards a carry to 4 yards a carry. I mean, it was a fun game. I'm not disagreeing with anything there. I think both teams would probably like to make differences. It's just Penn State is always on this end of the game. Always on, oh, we didn't make the play. Always on, oh, the other team made the play. And it's a mental thing. Michigan was there for a long time.
Yeah.
It's like one bad thing happens, or like, you get into the stressful moments of the game, and they just always were the team to make the mistakes. They were always the team to make the boneheaded move, for the dumb penalty, for the errant play. Another call in this game that changed was the fumble on Oregon. where the guy was down but it wasn't down. Like that was so close, and like that's the thing is like sometimes it can just feel so unlucky. Like you never get those breaks. Like it called on the field, it was a fumble. And then all of a sudden, like it's sort of maybe he is down, and then it gets flipped. So it just sucks, man. Like the those are like the small things that like Penn State's missing that they just haven't in one of these big games made those inches plays, right? Like they say football's a game of inches. Like those inches plays, they just never come up on the right side of it, and it sucks. And I know that feeling, and it feels so helpless. Like the players feel it when a call goes against them. The fans feel it. Everyone feels it, and that's just been James Franklin tenure there. He beats everyone he's supposed to. He beats every single team he's better than. But anytime it's an evenly ranked matchup, anytime it's teams that are kind of more even, they never make that play, and it's infuriating. And I'm seeing a lot of fans talking about firing him. I don't know who you would go to, but it sucks. And guess what? The best thing is, and best and worst thing with the playoff, their season's still alive.
Yeah, they have a decent stretch. They play Ohio State, Indiana. Those are the two hardest games left.
Yeah, if they win one of those two, they're most likely in the playoff again.
For sure.
If they win two of them, right, they're in the Big Ten championship with an opportunity to host. If they have a rematch with Oregon, if Oregon continues to win out, so like they're close. That's what I kind of want to talk about. Is they're very close. You kind of just got to hang in there, man, and hopefully they can win a game. But most disappointed in LR in this run game, man, because it looks bad. All these guys came back to win these games, and they're still in the same spot they were previously.
Yeah, I think LR going 14 for 25 for 137, obviously 2 touchdowns, I think is not great. And the run game, like you said, they did 35 for 139, but Katron, like you said, 12 for 54, and Singleton 11 for 21. Not too great. And the long as a team was 20 by, I say Adler, you say LR, potato, whatever. So the run game wasn't there. Shout out to Oregon's defense, and Dane Lanning once again gets the boys going. And Dante Moore, like you said, KB looks clean, crisp. He's a Michigan kid. We'd love to see it. They I don't know if they have a bye. They got Indiana coming up, and then they have a pretty easy stretch till the last 2 games. But I love it. Great game. The mummy thing for Oregon was different. The whiteout. It was a great vibe. I think KB would agree that if you have a ad on your field, you should have a cool Nittany line at the 50-yard line. What do you think, KB?
I think it would help their field be cool. I also was talking to the guys. When they do the whiteout, why aren't they wearing like all white?
That'd be sick.
Again, I know it's tradition, right? So maybe I'm just stepping on my own toes here because, of course, they bow down to tradition, which is fair. But I think like the full white home unis with the white crowd with like the white Penn State logo at midfield it'd be even cooler. It'd be even cooler experience for someone who's not a fan. I don't want to get in the weeds. I mean, I respect Penn State fans. I just think that they're hopelessly flailing at tradition, and that's just a stupid place to be. Because some traditions don't deserve to last. And you have ads on your motherfucking field, guys. Stop acting like it's the pinnacle of safety. You have your end zones painted Penn State. Give me one of the cool fucking Nittany Lion logos, because they have a cool logo.
They have like a good one from the 90s, too. It was a good one from the 90s.
Yeah, they have a cool comments. A lot of people in the comment section were saying that. Like, yeah, like I never thought about that. A lot of people are like, this guy's weirdo. Yeah, dude, like I noticed the stupidest things about life. Like it's very frustrating for me. I wish I didn't care, but every single time I see that field, I'm like, fuck, it looks so much nicer with the logo at midfield. Fuck. Right. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. It wasn't meant to be that serious, but I mean, that's kind of how it goes. The only thing I take to offense in the whole entire comment section is people saying like, oh, he's just like trying to rage bait to get people like. If I don't genuinely believe something, it's really hard for me to act.
You wouldn't be here.
It's too
easy to buy a mic, KB. Get out of my face, right?
Yeah, it is too easy to buy a mic. I probably shouldn't have one. Just a dweeb, so.
Absolutely. But before we get to the last game, we should quick talk about the other games that were on the slate. Obviously, USC, Illinois. You said it for a second ago. Fantastic game. Illinois, USC goes up. Lemon is phenomenal. Maeva also great. And then Illinois comes back, makes a couple good plays, hits a field goal to win that game. Then obviously on Friday, like you said, the UVA beats Florida State. And I got to say one thing. The student section was just like on the hill there, and they were chomping at the bit to storm. And to me, that's just like not safe. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's got to be some kind of barrier, but I'm not a big storm. I'm not a big storm the field kind of guy. I mean, I get it, but being a player right there, and I saw a guy, a student probably get his phone out and put it right in Tommy Castellano's face. Like that stuff is just stupid, and obviously that's what it is in 2025.
Too.
Oh yeah, but it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But two great games. We had to shout them out. If you want to bring anything else up, KB, please. I thought Illinois bounced back well, and I got a shout out. I love the quarterback for Virginia. He was gutsy. He played injured. He was at North Texas, and I think he was at TC. He might have been at TCU too before that, but he's bounced around, and it's a good win for Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, two things to follow up that, and I also have a quiz. We had a great slate of games. I just have to mention Georgia Tech came back to win in overtime. There's a missed offsides call that really hurt Wake Forest, but Wake Forest blew a huge lead. Georgia Tech looked stumbly out of the gate. USC in the Illinois game, 9 a.m. kicks, right? West Coast teams coming 9 a.m.
Yep.
That's a difficult task. ASU lost to Cincinnati last year when they had some injuries. Same thing here. Maeva's still really good. I felt like he missed a few throws in this game that would have been game changers to build momentum early. But this was a huge bounce back from Bielema and Illinois to get this win because it felt like their season could be spiraling after getting embarrassed, and they were able to fight back and win. Tennessee and Mississippi State went into overtime. Tennessee was able to pull that game out. And then the last game with FSU Virginia, I think we kind of knew that there were some unsustainable things that we saw FSU do against Alabama in week 1, and it kind of came into fruition. This defense didn't play as airtight as maybe we had thought that they were going to be able to do and hang on as well as they were able to frustrate and overwhelm Alabama. And, Castellanos, 14 for 78. 14 carries is a lot for QB. He looked kind of, not injured, but a little battered down the stretch here. The defense turned Chandler Morris over 3 times, but they were able to do enough. And I think the big thing here is what you're talking about, the field storming, is I'm pro field storming. I would just like a 20-second window or like a 10-second window to just let players clear the field. Because not just the player safety, for the fans going that quickly, I know some people said, I know girls who, stumbled and fell and they're getting trampled. And, that can lead to serious injury and death, when that many people are running and they don't see you and they can just stomp on you. So I'm all for it. I love those traditions of college football, of storming the field, especially at big. I think Illinois stormed the field against USC, I think, and that's a little cringy. It shouldn't really happen unless it's a top 8 team or, a direct rival that something crazy happened. But really, really, really impressive from both those teams to kind of pull themselves together and get wins. It sucks for FSU. FSU season's still fully ahead of them, though. Obviously, just one double OT loss isn't going to derail a season with the playoff.
Absolutely. Love that, KB. Let's jump into the last game. Bama edges out Georgia 24-21. KB, we text back and forth about this a little bit. I didn't watch it all. I watched a lot of highlights. Interesting game. A lot of things to take away from it. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, Alabama got shut out in the second half, so Georgia's defense played a really good game. Alabama still struggles to run the ball. They had 38 carries in this game for 117 at 3.1 yards a carry. Some of that was Jeremy Bernard, who's absolutely awesome. He had a huge game, former Spartan dog, like we always talk about. And, Ty Simpson, he played a really good game, man. He was able to manipulate the pocket. He has a strong arm. He fit in some tight windows. And this offensive line really protected him. And I think that was the one main concern, right? We saw him get absolutely overwhelmed in the FSU game. He was running for his life. And when he's in the pocket, he's the Jared Goff of college QBs, man. When he's in the pocket, he can sling it, but once he gets off platform, it's a little dicey. But in this game, he was on time, on platform. He managed the pocket well, and that's really the difference. And then Alabama's defense, man. I thought Georgia ran the ball, pretty effectively. They had some huge gaping runs. 43-yard carry for Chauncey Bowens, 43-yard carry for the wide receiver Bell. Frazier had a 24. Stockton had a 21. So they put up 227, averaging almost 7 yards a carry. And it just didn't lead to points because offensively it felt like they were a little sluggish. They really couldn't bring together groups of plays to be effective. And I think that's one of the key stats that you'd look at here. And then one other thing, Chris, before we jump it over to you. Alabama was 13 of 19 on third down.
Tremendous.
That's the most third downs Georgia's given up, I believe, in the Kirby Smart era. Georgia was outpossessed by over 11 minutes of game time. When you can continue to win on third down, you get to hold the ball and hold the ball and hold the ball. So really impressive performance here. Really close game, and it's just one of those games that was fun, that was entertaining down the stretch, and one team just made some more plays, maybe even the most desperate team, and Alabama kind of got, we had talked about their struggles on the road. I picked against them in this game, and they got over it in this game. They looked well prepared, especially in the first half. They looked well managed. In Georgia, they lose a really, really long home winning streak, which sucks for them. I believe Indiana now has the longest home winning streak, which is really, really funny, basically after just one season because everyone else has lost. But really impressive win. Quist, give me some of your takes. What were your feelings from watching this game? At the end of the day, this was just really good, really fun football.
Yeah, I texted you watching the highlights this morning. Ty Simpson looked like he was slinging it around. Like you said, when he has time, he looks good. 24-38, 276, 2 tutties. Like, you talked about this too, and it's going to be interesting to see how this Bama team goes. They can't really run the ball too well. And with a guy like Jam Miller, it's got to be he's a good running back in my opinion. So the O-line, we'll have to keep our eye on that. And it's interesting how they got Caden Proctor into the game. He is a massive load of a man. And Kirk Kirchner himself was just laughing because he just was like, you can't do anything. A Georgia guy tried to go for his feet and just missed. And, good balance for a big boy. I don't know how much he weighs, 350, I don't know. But cool to see that. He's really athletic for a big man. And I also thought Isaiah Horton kind of flashed to me. He had 5 catches, 65 yards, and a touchdown. I'm not sure what year he is for Bama, but watching Ryan Williams back and dropping pretty much a touchdown is tough. He had a couple drops, which is interesting to see. He's really good. I think Smith's had a couple drops this year too for OSU. So the 2 top receivers coming back this year, KB, are struggling a little bit. I don't think it's a big deal, but it's something to keep an eye on. And I think there was a big drop too for Georgia.
He's leading since he started last year. He's leading the country in drops since last year. Williams.
Oof. He's got potential, though. It's
a drop issue. It is officially, you could put up a big banner, drop issue labeled on his forehead. Like NFL scouts, I'm sure, are going to be talking about that heading into next year. And then to answer your other question, Isaiah Horton, he is a redshirt junior. He was at Miami for the last 3 years. Okay. He had 616 yards receiving last year at Miami with 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, he looks clean and smooth, but maybe it's the Bama jerseys. And I know there's I'm not sure who it was. There's a relatively bigger drop, too, for Georgia. So they both had one big drop that probably would have led to a touchdown. Gunnar Stockton's stats, 13 for 20, 130, so nothing special. He seems like, to me, KB, he's that college QB that's a gamer. He's going to keep you in the game, but he's not going to do anything head and shoulders to, win the game. Like, in my opinion, Dante Moore making that little move in overtime, that is taking, control of the game and winning it. While a guy like Gunnar Stockton, you're going to love playing for him, but he's not going to take that big step up. Not a knock on him. It's just the kind of QB he is. I think Georgia will be okay, KB. It's a tough game. Bama played well. Went into Georgia between the hedges and got the win. And I think Ty Simpson in that O-line was the difference here. Both defenses played well. Like you said, they got shut out. And I was checking on my phone when I was out, and I just kept on seeing the same score. So obviously the defenses stood tall in the second half, and Bama gets the win, a big win early in SEC play.
Right is, should Kirby Smart have kicked the field goal? 4th down and 1, you rush to the line, give the ball to Cash Jones outside, and he gets tackled for -4 yards. You could have kicked the field goal to tie. You have to kick the field goal to tie in the 4th quarter. You've shut them out in the second half. You've been able to limit them, and you don't kick the field goal to tie when you have momentum, and you give all the momentum right back to them. It's easy to do this decision, the next day when you're not in the heat of the moment, so I understand that, but I think not tying a game at home when you have all the momentum, you've outscored them. I think that would have been, 10-0 in the second half, and obviously you had a big second quarter. So after getting down, early, you're able to kind of charge back, and you just don't kick the field goal. I think is pretty weird to me. Maybe I get it. You want to really try to win the game, but it's not like it was like 4th and 1. You're in the end zone. It's 4th and 1. All right, now I think they would have been on like the 11-yard line. So it still would have been a really tough situation, right? So let me see here. Yeah, they were on. Yeah, they were on the Alabama 8, so they still would have had 7, 6, 5 yards to get in the end zone. So I just think that was a poor decision on them to go for it. Quist, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you play to win the game, so I totally get that. And I'm usually a pretty aggressive guy on fourth down personally, and I would have probably give it to Bowens the way he was running the ball if it's 4th and 1. Or I love a QB sneak. I think the QB sneak's pretty much undefeated, or like a tush push. But yeah, I totally get that. But sometimes you gotta take the points, and you live and learn as a coach, like you will in this game. Sometimes you want to be aggressive and win the game, and sometimes just taking the points is the right call, especially when you're at home, especially when you're shutting them down, like you've been saying, KB. So I like the aggressiveness. I probably would have that same thought process, but to chip shot and ride your defense because they've been doing everything you have wanted for in the second half. So I don't think it hurts their season. I think Georgia's got a relatively lighter couple games ahead of them compared to Bama. Bama's got Vanderbilt and at Missouri up next. So, we'll be talking about those games probably in the next couple weeks. But Georgia will be fine. They'll clean it up. I think the QB play is something to keep an eye out on. They can run the ball well, get Zachariah Branch the ball, and lean on that defense as much as you can, and maybe you're in the SEC championship still. You're probably going to get in the playoff, going 10-2. If I'm trying, let's look at who they got.
Yeah, they have Ole Miss coming up in a couple weeks. Well, they have Kentucky, Auburn, Ole Miss, Florida, Mississippi State. They have Texas, Charlotte, and then Georgia Tech, who gave them a scare last year. So they still have a pretty. I wouldn't call that a light schedule. They have 3 key games, if you will, that are all against ranked opponents. The good news is that 2 out of the 3 of them are at home, and I believe the Georgia Tech game is at a neutral site in Atlanta. I believe it's at the.
Well, Georgia Tech's in Atlanta, so I don't know.
No, I think it's like not on. Yeah, it's at the Mercedes-Benz. Okay. So it's a neutral site game, no longer on college campus. Which rivalry games not on college campuses in general suck. But so the rest of their season, they had Alabama at home. They have Ole Miss at home, and they have Texas at home, which are all huge opportunities. They have to go on the road to Auburn, which I know Auburn's really struggled, but that's a goofy little place to have to travel to. They've had a lot of key wins there as well. But all in all, season's not over. These teams are going to have to grow and continue to kind of develop. They lost a close game to Alabama after winning a close game against Tennessee. So you flip both those results, right? Would you be like, hey, is this team's good? If they would have lost both, you'd be like, the sky's falling. But that's how football is, right? 1-score games kind of decide the narrative. When we're in November, no one's going to be like, hey, remember when they only beat Tennessee by 3 or whatever, and they had to in overtime, and they had to, walk through a missed field goal and all this stuff. No, because they beat Tennessee, and that's all you really care about. So I don't think we need to hang our hats on this loss for too long. I think Georgia's going to be able to bounce back, and we'll see as we continue to, watch these teams go.
Absolutely. And Bama's got a pretty good stretch, KB. They got Vandy at Mizzou, Tennessee at South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, and then they got their cupcake, and then obviously
Auburn to finish the year.
And finish the year. So both teams, it's SEC, it's stacked. I'm looking forward to their 9 conference season. I believe in a year or two, get this cupcake bullshit out of my way. Eastern Illinois in week 11 or game 11 is terrible. So I know that's changing in a year or two. And the Big Ten does it, and it just makes it more competitive. And obviously, you probably make more money knowing it's going to be a big game. So I got nothing else, KB. I'm looking forward to being back with our teams. We're at Nebraska. Not sure who you got.
Home against Wisconsin.
Home against Wisco. Big Ten kickoff or big noon kick. We love that. And looking forward to breaking down some games. We'll probably talk Vandy, Bama. That's a revenge game for Bama, which is fun to say. Vandy's, I think, undefeated. So really looking forward to being back here in a couple days with KB and breaking down another slate of good old college football. I think it's already week 6, KB, which is very, very sad for me to say. But, hey, we love it.
Yeah, we're heading into week 6. Yeah, excited for our boys, our teams to go out there and play. Overall, this is going to be another good slate of games week in and week out, and I'm excited. I think the thing too that we gotta be aware of with kind of the changes in college football is that you can lose these games too, but with SEC bringing in their 9-game conference schedule, I hope the Big Ten requires that you play a Power 5 out-of-conference game, because Penn State being able to sleepwalk through the start of their season, Indiana being able to sleepwalk through the start of their season due to scheduling nobodies, I think it doesn't prepare you for the game. First off, like Penn State looked overwhelmed at the start of this game. I think because they hadn't played anyone with a pulse yet, and similarly, I just think it's unfair in general to not have Power Five out of conference games where every other year, right, you're traveling home and then away, home and away, just getting all these home games. It's a huge benefit to your team, to your organization, to your system. And you don't have to play anyone hard. So. I hope that's one of the changes. With all that being said, excited. Another week in the books. Excited to watch this. Go Blue.
I agree on that, KB, and I forgot. Go Green.